about public records and why it is so important for you to stay out of there, or at the very minimum, keep your presence low. Okay. So, before I get started, I want to introduce myself to you. My name is Dohn Thornton, and I have been a successful real estate investor for 23 years. I have flipped over 3,000 properties in my career, and my company has had an A plus rating with the Better Business Bureau with no complaints for over, well, close to 20 years now. And that's a big deal. And I'm really proud of that because it shows that I treat everybody fairly and I have a very high ethical standard. About 3 years ago, I heard about this amazing trust that I'm going to be talking about with you today. And it completely overhauled everything that I had ever done. I thought that, how I was doing things before was the right way. I realized it was the wrong way. So it led to me completely reorganizing my business and my business model, how I make money, how I protect my assets, and how I approach business and my personal investments and passive income as well. It all changed for the better. Okay. So in this live today, I'm going to talk to you about public records, and we're going to go over why they're dangerous, what you can do to minimize your record in public records, your trace, and why that's important, and what are some of the ancillary benefits that come from that you wouldn't even think you're going to be able to save money on taxes by doing this, but you can a lot. But we'll get in that a little bit later in the live. But right now, before we get started into the nitty gritty, I'd like for you to imagine a cherry tree. And the reason why I say cherry tree is because specifically one of the best memories of my life was when I first got married, and my wife and I were in Utah. I was going to school at the University of Utah at the time, and one of my good friends, my mixed doubles partner, former Olympian speed skater, and she was obviously retired long ago from that. And we loved to play mixed doubles together in these amateur tournaments the USTA put out. Well, she had this amazing cherry tree. It was pretty tall. It was very tall, and we used to go over there and pick cherries. She says, "Hey, come over anytime you want and pick as many cherries as you want. I can't handle all the volume, especially this particular summer. It was a very bountiful harvest. Let's put it that way. Now, imagine a cherry tree that's maybe, I mean, the it was about the height of the top of her roof, and it a one-story house, so maybe 15 feet, maybe 15, 17 feet high. So you got branches going all over the place. And they're bending down because of the weight of the fruit. What cherries do you think that we picked first? Well, I'm 5'9". My wife is 5'4", probably 5'3", 5'4". You're probably guessing right that we picked the ones we could reach early. Okay. So we had a choice. We looked at the tree, and we said, okay, where are we going to start? Well, I think any normal person would start where the phrase came from, the lower hanging fruit, correct? We did not get one of those scalable ladders, where you could just, all of a sudden you go 30 feet, we didn't start at the top of the tree because those were the highest branches. We did not start there. Where did we start? We start at the lowest hanging branches, which could reach ourselves. And it wasn't until we cleaned all of those out that we started going higher and higher. Okay. Well, I think you might have guessed by now that this is an allegory. It's a metaphor. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying that is the question I want to pose to you is, what is the first reason you think that you want to stay away from public records? I mean, I don't see anybody raising their hand yet. So I'll go ahead and answer the question for you. Because when scammers, when people who want to commit financial harm to you, when rogue attorneys want to compile a list of people and businesses that they could possibly sue, where are they going to go? They go to public records. As a real estate investor who has rental property, what do you think is one of the biggest worries that I used to have when it came to my rental portfolio? Well, I didn't want to get embroiled in a lawsuit. So where could lawsuits possibly come from? Well, you can get lawsuits from tenants. That sometimes happens. You could get sued by the county or the state or the feds for eminent domain. That's kind of rare, but it's possible, right? If but in my case, my rental properties are in, let's say, a northern climate. I'm not going to go into detail where they are, but they're in a northern climate. And we definitely have winter there. Okay, we have snow, we have ice, we have black ice. So obviously, I'm always concerned about somebody slipping and falling on my property. And what happens if they slip and fall and they crack their head open and let's say they have a catastrophic event? They hit their head, they have a stroke, they have a brain hemorrhage, they die, or they're incapacitated to the point where they can never do anything again, or let's say they twist a knee, they fall on an elbow, they wrench their shoulder. That is a dream scenario for attorneys, ambulance chasers, the ones that go after, these types of lawsuits. And all you have to do is just Google them. You see them everywhere. All right. So there's a second category. Now that you can't do much about that. I mean, you can. I'll get into here soon about what you can do to protect yourself from those types of lawsuits. But at least in that case, something legitimately happened. There's a whole nother category of people that like to fake these types of things or exaggerate. And slip and fall scams are a big thing. And if you have uh, rental property, you have a portfolio, or if you are a business owner and your property you own the building, you're not renting, or even if you're not, if something happens inside your business, then you could be held liable for that stuff as well. So it's not just real estate, it's anybody that you're vulnerable, that you have some kind of responsibility for, that someone could do this. And people don't necessarily think that because they are in public record, that could be a bad thing, but it is. Now, I've done some recordings, some lives in the last couple of weeks, and I've talked more in depth about this subject, about how there are scammers and rogue attorneys that are predators, and they are targeting entities, people, businesses that they can sue. And they understand that anybody can file a lawsuit. Okay. So any attorney can file a lawsuit. And, you know, when you get, as a business owner, as an individual, when you get served with the paperwork that announces that a legal action has been taken against you, it's called a lis pendens, LIS, and then PENDENS, lis pendens, or LP, has been filed against you, then you have limitations immediately that happen. So it is illegal for you to dispose of any assets. So if you decided that you wanted to sell one of your properties or wanted to sell a vehicle, wanted to sell some crypto, mm-mm, you can't do that anymore. It's frozen. Now that's inconvenient. Let's put it that way. All right. Now there's this thing called discovery. And in a lawsuit, that means that the attorney that is on the prosecuting side or on the plaintiff, let's put it that way, can and will demand every single document and information about your business, your company's business, structure, the minutes, every single transaction, look at bank statements, and they can and will go through and get an idea of every single thing that's there. Now, a lot of that is because if it's a harassment type situation or a semi scam where they're trying to just fish, they'll see what they find. But I want you to understand something. A lot of real estate investors will have their properties in LLCs, and they think that they are protected, that their personal assets, okay, their personal assets are protected. Well, they are and they aren't. Okay. It is very, very easy for a good attorney to pierce the corporate veil. The whole idea of getting an LLC, for example, or a corporation to hold your assets in is that there is a wall, a veil between you personally and the structure that is holding your assets. They're your assets. You just put them, you chose a tax reduction and a asset protection strategy to get them out of your name. So good for you for doing that. At least you did that, right? But it's not enough. Okay. So then they go through and before, let me tell you something how it works. Before anybody sues, the attorney will do an asset search. They have the software, they can do that. It's pretty easy to find. And if you have, remember, an LLC or a corporation, if you're an officer, that's public record, there's software out there that can identify that very easily. So just like that, they're going to be able to make a list of any corporation or any structure that you are an officer in, and they can see with a public record search what's there, what those entities have. And of course, they're going to do it for you personally as well. Okay. So if you're smart, you've got most of those assets in something else, but a lot of people keep their personal residences out, their personal vehicles out, and they're in their personal name, which makes it vulnerable. Okay. But we're talking about public records in general. So I just want to continue along with this line of thinking. So attorney Joe Schmo is looking to file lawsuits, and he's got a profile. He or she has a profile. In this case, it's a he because he's Joe Schmo. He has a profile. Who do you think that he wants to go after? He wants to go after people that have stuff to lose. They have money, right? I'm going to tell you something. They're not going after somebody who works a 7-Eleven and works in a bowling alley or something like that, or somebody working two jobs, someone who rents, someone who lives in a trailer, someone who still lives with their parents. Okay. Not going after them, right? Because there's no money, there's nothing to get. They're going after their certain profile, and the profile is somebody who has assets. Okay. So that's number one.